Hey guys, Bitmaster here. Welcome to this video tutorial. And in this video tutorial, we're going to be talking about builders. So usually whenever you hear the term builder, your mind should immediately rush to software builders, malware builders, something that is capable of making one executable output another executable with settings so that it can load from those settings and produce whatever the hell you want it to. So a lot of you guys out there have used like rats and stuff. Well, have you ever wondered how the rat executable spits out another executable for you to be able to use? That's what we're going to be talking about today. This is for total beginners and people who don't know anything about this type of stuff. Obviously, for those who do know, this can be basically just a reference, right? So essentially what we're trying to do, and I'll open up Paint to show you. Let's say that you have your rat running, right? And I'm just going to draw a really crude photo of this crap, but you get the point. And there's the minimize and the little square. And let's say that you've got a bunch of settings in here like IP address, port number, a checkbox for you want it to auto install on someone's computer, maybe a little combo box with some settings that drop down and some more stuff in there, all this stuff. And then there's a button over here that says build. So it's got like a B on it for build, right? So when you click this button, essentially we want to produce another executable, which is going to have an icon on it. Oh, and by the way, here's the icon changer and whatnot. So you change the icon by clicking this or whatever. And then you click the build button. So what happens? A lot of you guys are probably really confused by this. This is what I'm essentially making this video for, is to clear up any confusion. This is essentially what happens, okay? This program, this rat program, is an exe, right? It's an exe all by itself. The whole thing is an exe. But the part that you don't understand fully is that this executable, this rat, actually has another exe inside of itself that's a blank, basically, kind of like a template, if you will, okay? So with that in mind, when you click the build button, what happens is, so you click build, okay? So you click the build button, and it pops out. It basically tells itself to look into itself, pull out this other exe that's blank, more or less. It has code in it, but it's just templated code, like code that can't really do anything until you inject settings into it. So it pulls out the exe out of itself, and this is called a stub. So I'm trying to explain this the best I can, guys. So this is a stub, right? And it is also a .exe. So it's an exe, right? So what happens is it pulls this exe out to disk and throws it on the hard drive, right? Wherever you chose to save it after you clicked your build button. And then after it saves it, it basically reaches up inside of this exe into its executable resources, and it injects data into the exe. So let's say that, for example, with the rat, what's going to be some of the main, I guess you'd call it like main parameters that you need to be able to make the client do when it gets ran on another person's machine? Well, some of the most common things that need to happen is, I guess it needs to know what IP address to connect back to, and it also needs to know what port to connect on, right? So let's just use these two as baseline, okay? Settings. So when you have a rat and you click the build button to build your, well, I guess you'd call it victim, right? Your client victim, or whatever it is, it's going to reach up itself, pull out the blank templated stub file, the executable that has all the malicious code and all the stuff, and it's going to inject or update resource or create new resource using executable resources, and it's going to inject these inside of the client. So then you would take the exe that you created, this whole thing, you would take the exe that you created, and you would send it to somebody. Okay? So then, let's say that this person opens the exe. So this is the exe, the one that we just injected settings into. So they open it up by double clicking it, and it basically runs, and it looks up inside of its own resources, pulls out the data, which is obviously going to be the IP and port. Okay, you follow me so far? So the exe looks up its own thing here into its resources, pulls out the IP, pulls out the port, assigns it to the socket information, and then it makes a connection back to your rat. And it performs all the duties it's supposed to do. That's how a builder works, generally, with executable resources. Now, there are trillions of ways to do this. Executable resources is the most primitive way to do this, but it's also the mostly used. There are other methods such as end of file data. You can actually write bytes, bits, whatever you want to the end of a file, and you can save settings that way. You can use different forms of executable resources, such as zipping up a text file that's encrypted and putting it in the resources, and then extracting that, and then pulling it to disk and looking at it, or putting it in a memory stream and not ever letting it touch the disk. Guys, I could go on and on and on and on and on. There are trillions of ways you could do this type of stuff. It is absolutely unbelievable. You could even pull it from the internet if you wanted to, but that would be a bad idea in case cloud computing didn't work out that day. You get my point? Cloud server's down, your settings don't load, your stub is worth crap. But you get the point. So basically, to reiterate, okay, your server or your rat or whatever program you have has a builder function. So it extracts an executable from itself, which is going to be the client executable, and then it injects the settings, the string settings, or whatever type of data settings you have into that EXE's resources. Then that EXE gets sent out to your people that you're trying to get to use your product or whatever it is, whatever it may be, wink wink. And then when they click it, it runs in memory, but it looks into itself, extracts the resource that it needs to load from, and applies the settings, whatever they may be. In this case, it's an IP and address and a port number, right? So we're going to program this today, and I'm going to explain it as we go along. So let's take a quick peek here. What we need to do is we're going to start with the builder, okay? So we're going to go to Project, Options, and we're going to give it a theme. So once this comes up, we're going to click on Appearance, and then we're going to go all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to give it a theme. So we're going to use green graphite today, and we're also going to do this on the stub as well. Now remember, we have two projects. We have a builder and we have a stub, okay? So I'm going to do the same with the stub. We're going to go Project, Options, and we're going to go to Appearance, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom, and we're going to choose green graphite. We're going to keep the theme the same across both projects, okay? So at this point, what we have to do is we're going to have to basically make some places on our builder where we can actually change the settings and click build. So we're going to need a couple of labels. So we're going to grab one label, we're going to copy that, we're going to paste that, pull this down, and we're going to put these right in the center of the thing. We're going to make this, actually I'm going to delete this one on the bottom. I'm going to do this a little bit of a lazy way. I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn the auto size off, make sure it's center justified, copy, paste, and then there you have it. Now you've got two, and they're pretty much equivalent stuff, right? So now that we have this, I'm going to hit save. On the first label, we're going to put IP address, and then on the second one, we're going to do port number. And we're going to create a button as well. So on the button, we're going to put the button right at the bottom. We're going to put it about equal to all this, I suppose. And then we're going to, on the button, we're going to make the caption of the button, build stub. Now we're going to grab two edit boxes. So we're going to grab an edit box here. We're going to slap her down, clear out the text, make it somewhat long. We'll just use 3 dots and 3 dots on each side to make it kind of even. Paste this in, make sure it goes down on the bottom portion here, pull the button up, make it nice and tidy. There you have it. So this is our builder, okay, guys? So what we're going to need to do, let me go ahead and make this perfectly clear. We're going to design the graphical interface. Now let's work on the stub just a little bit, okay? And we're going to keep this really simple. We're just going to have two labels on the stub that's going to actually load our settings and show them. And that's basically all we're doing for this example. Now you could use your imagination and see how far this could be taken. So we're going to turn off auto size. We're also going to set the alignment to the center, and we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste this. Now we're going to set these up to be caption of loading, and we'll do the same with the bottom one. So loading. So now we'll hit save. Let's go ahead and take off the border icons because we want the border style to be single where it can't be resized. And then we're going to come back over here and we're going to do something similar, probably just exactly the same thing. Take this off, change the border style to single. Now it can't be resized. Great, looks good. So at this point, all right, guys, here's the thing. Remember, this is the builder, the server, the rat, the whatever you're trying to build, right? Or build from, rather. So we have to take this exe, this project needs to be shoved into the resources of this project, okay? So to do this, we're going to go to release on this project. So on the stub, we're choosing to release this project. We're going to right click on the exe right here at the top, this stub.exe, right click, build. We're going to let it build and produce an executable file. Now let's go find that file. Let's right click on it and show and explore. So it pulls this up. We're going to go into Win32, release, and there's the stubs.exe file. This is the pathway to that exe file. We're going to go to our original project, our builder, okay, and we're going to shove this exe inside of this exe. So we're going to go project. So remember, we're on our builder now. Project, resources and images, add. We're going to browse to that directory where our thing is, and you'll notice that nothing appears. That's because it's expecting default resource extensions that are currently defaultly available to shove inside of an executable. But we don't have one of these, so we're going to choose any file, okay? And there's our stub. So we're going to click on the stub and click open. Now, the stub has been shoved inside of the exe, but we have to give this resource a name. Let's just call it stub, all caps, and hit enter. So now, the identifier for our stub is just stub all caps. I'm going to hit OK. And now you'll see that in our Project Explorer window, it actually shows that the stubs Win32 release executable has been shoved into our executable. But not quite. We still have to release this. I'm going to leave it on debug just for testing purposes, but we're going to go ahead and right click on this, and we're going to click build. Now, in theory, the executable should exist inside of the builder exe. Now, how can we find out for sure if this even worked? Let's right click on the executable and go to show and explore. This is how you guys are going to learn about executable resources. So we'll go into our debug folder, and here's our project, our builder.exe. If I run this, you'll see that here's our program running in memory. Okay? Looks great, right? So, but how do we know if we in fact did shove that other executable in there? Looks like I can tell you the file size is pretty big, but that could just be because it's in debug mode. So we need to find out. In order to do this, you're going to need to download a software called Resource Hacker. This software is called Resource Hacker, and it can show you the internal resources that exist inside executable files. So what we're going to do is go File, Open, and we're going to go to our desktop over to the YouTube tutorial, and we're going to go into our builder, M132, debug, and there's our builder exe. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open this builder up. So let's click open. And as you can see, it's got a bunch of stuff on the sides here. It's got the icons, it's got the cursor, all the main tree view stuff that goes inside of an executable. We're looking inside RC data, and we're just kind of looking around. I do not see anything in here that says stub on it at all. So we're going to have to probably recompile. So you see how nothing here, like none of these say stub, none of them at all, none of this doesn't say it. There's no stub here at all. So I'm going to close out of that. We're going to delete these files, both the DCU and the EXE. We're going to come back into Delphi. Make sure you hit save. Make sure under project resources and images, the stub exists, which it does. Make sure we hit save. Make sure this is set to debug. Make sure you right click and build again. Now you can see it got recreated with the exe. So now let's give this a try. Let's copy this again and go resource hacker. And let's try opening that same exact thing. Now if we look in RC data, we see stub. So now we can tell that it has actually succeeded in shoving the stub or the executable inside of our other executable. So it has taken our stub executable and shoved it inside of our builder. So if I click on stub, you're going to see the output of a Win32 DOS program. So this is just basically the hexadecimal values, the hex strings and offsets for the executable that we have, okay? And that's all there is to it. So basically, stub is a exe. That's all it is, all right? So we're going to close that out. We're going to close this out. Now, what we have to do is we have to build our stub. So how are we going to do this? We have to take this exe, which is now shoved into our builder. So our builder, when we click this button, our builder's job is to look up inside of itself into its own resources, find this program, extract it from itself, and slap it to our hard drive. Then it has to inject data into this exe, okay? Our settings. And our settings are going to be IP address and port number, right? You follow me so far, guys? Okay, so let's get to programming this bad boy. So on this, we are going to create some variables. So we're going to start writing this up. So we're going to make a resource stream, which is going to be a T resource stream. Then we're going to have a stub file name, which is a string. And then we're going to have settings, setting text, and that's going to be an ANSI string, which is going to be used to support UTF-8 character encoding. And then we're going to have a stub handle and an update handle, which is both of type thandle. Then we're going to have a resource size, which is a cardinal. And then we're going to have setting stream, which is a tmemory stream. And then we're going to have resource data, which is going to be a type of pointer. Now we can actually start programming, now that we have all this stuff set up. I wish I had a shorter example to show you guys. I used to know how to do this in like 4 lines of code, no shit. But I kind of forgot over the years, and this is just the simplest way I can remember how to do it, is by using all this garbage with it. So in any case, I may release source code to you guys, which does it in like literally 4 lines of code, no shit. But for now, this is the best way I can remember. I have to take it one step at a time. So we need to extract the stub.exe from ourselves, or well, from our builder.exe. So what we'll do is res stream is going to be equivalent to tResourceStream.create. Now I'm going to do hinstance, which is this application. So we're looking into this application for something called stub, okay? And it's RT-RC data type. Because as you guys can remember, and I'll do this again, when we open up the resource hacker, and we'll go to open, let's go to open and then builder. So you see how inside of this it's called RC data. So we're looking in RC data. The resource type is in RC data, and it's called stub, S-T-U-B, right here. See that, guys? S-T-U-B, all caps. You can forget the 1033 and the colon and all that crap. It doesn't really mean much. It's just the name that we're locking onto. So we're looking into our exe, which is currently the builder. We're looking for our stub executable in the RC data kind of subtree view. And then what we're going to do is, and if I can spell instance correct, I think I misspelled this, hinstance, hopefully that is correct. There we go. I can spell. Yay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to try to do some stuff here. Okay. With the resource stream. So at the end, whenever we're done using the resource stream, we want to actually free the resource stream. So res stream.free. Okay, so now we're going to try doing something with the resource stream. So what are we going to do with the resource stream? Well, I can tell you that we're going to try to save it to disk. So the stub file name is going to be equivalent to stub.exe. So that's what we're going to call it when we save it to the hard drive. The res stream dot position is going to be equal to 0. So we're starting from the first bit or byte or whatever from the beginning of the file, and we're going to save it to a file. So res stream dot save to file and the stub file name, and that's it. And we're just saving it as stub.exe. Now, because I didn't put anything else in here, I didn't put like, C:\users, I didn't do any of that crap because we're literally just going to save stub.exe in the same exact directory that our builder's running in. Now, if you wanted to advance this, you certainly could. You could drag and drop a save dialog box onto the form and make it save it wherever you want and keep track of it. That's fine. But in this example, we're not doing it. We're just saving stub.exe directly to the same directory that our builder is actually running in, okay? So now that we've saved, we've got the name of the file we want to save. We set the name of the file we're going to save. We set the stream position to 0, and we save it to the file. That's it, and then we free the stream. We're done. That's literally absolutely fucking it. We're literally finished with that point. So that's the first step in building a builder. Now we're literally halfway there, believe it or not, because we've got the file that we wanted saved to the hard drive. Now we have to embed the settings or inject the settings into the stub.exe. So this is the big part. This is the part that makes it all matter, right? So what we're going to do is say setting text is going to be equivalent to an ANSI string. We're going to trim that string. And now we're going to put our settings in. So what we want to do is, remember, we're trying to inject the IP address that the person typed in and the port number that the person typed in, correct? So follow me so far. So when we click this button, we're extracting our stub.exe from ourselves, slapping it to the hard drive, and injecting an IP address and a port number into its resources, okay? I'll keep reiterating. I hope I'm explaining this in a way that you guys are completely understanding this. It's very, very simple stuff if you really think about it logically. So we'll do edit1.text, okay? So then we're going to add a little extra pizzazz to it. We're going to put ourselves a little pipe in between our settings so that we can use a string list on the stub to be able to parse through them. So we're going to use, for example, we're trimming the edit1.text, and then we're going to also do the same thing with the edit2.text. So let me make a comment here off to the side. This is the host or IP ADDI, and so that's IP address, and then this one will be port number. So up here we have, and then this is a separator. So I'm just kind of making this comment to kind of help you guys out. So this is the IP address, this is the separator, and then this is the port number over here. So we want to now put plus, and then we want to say trim edit2.text. Okay? So now that's all there is to it, guys. You see kind of what I've done here? I've literally put our IP address, trimmed it, and then I put a separator, and then I've also trimmed edit2.text, which is the port number, right? So now we'll come down, and we're going to do a little bit more. So we have to now take our setting text and inject it or save it into the stub, into our stub exe that we've already extracted, right? So what we're going to do is say the stub handle, because we have to get a handle on our stub exe before we can do anything at all. So we're going to say the stub handle, and if you'll look, the stub handle is a type of key handle for looking at and locking onto different things in Microsoft Windows. In this case, it's a file handle, or we're using it as a file handle. So the stub handle, okay, is going to be equivalent to begin update resource pcar, and this is a p character of the stub's file name, so stub file name, and then we're not going to expect anything back, so we're putting false as a second param. So let's make sure that I did get this spelled correctly, and there you have it. So now we have a handle on our stub, and that handle from now on is going to be I got something in my mouth, guys. Ugh. All right, so basically the stub handle is a handle to that file, but it's to begin update resource. So we're looking at our stub file, and we're calling the Windows API to begin updating a resource inside of that file, and now we're going to proceed. So we're going to say if the stub handle is not 0, meaning Windows did indeed allow us to have a latch onto that file and begin the API begin update resource, then we can proceed. So we're going to begin, and then we're going to try the following. So let's Control D that out. So we're going to basically try to create a memory stream. Create a memory stream containing the settings text. So we're going to say settings stream is equivalent to a t memory stream.create. And then what we're going to do is come down, and we are going to try something else. We're going to write the buffer of our text into the stream. Okay? So we're going to try. And I know this is kind of looking ugly because I've got a bunch of try statements going on. Don't worry, guys. We're going to fix all this later at the bottom, and it'll all become clear to you. So on the stub handle, and I think I misspelled stub handle up here. I did. It's stub handle. So now this one's going to be messed up. Let me copy this and make sure to spell that correctly. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so stub handle. Basically, underneath this try statement, we've already created our memory stream for where we're going to stuff our settings data. Now we have to actually write the settings into the memory stream. So settings stream dot write buffer. Maybe I didn't spell this correct. Settings stream dot write buffer. There we go. So we're going to write buffer setting text from position 1 to the length of settings text. So now we have successfully written the UTF-8 encoded text directly into the buffer of that memory stream. So now we're going to say setting stream dot position is going to be set back to 0, to the first byte of data. Then we're going to get the size of the resource data. So we're going to say resource size is equivalent to setting stream dot size, which is an int64. Now we're going to come down and we're going to update the resource in the stub executable file. So we're going to say if update resource, and we're going to say the stub, it's asking for a handle, so we're going to have the stub handle of RTRC data type, and we're looking for to create one called settings inside of the stub executable. We're going to keep this language neutral, and we're going to put in the pointer to our resource data and to the size of the data, which is res size. So if we successfully update the resource with our data, then we're going to show message settings successfully injected into the stub and that's what we're going to leave it at right there. Okay, guys? So now then, what we'll do, now that we've got all this pretty much written up, underneath this finally here, let's kind of separate this out, make it look a little bit more presentable. Underneath the finally here, let's actually, before that, let's do an else statement as well, guys, and just in case. Let's do another message here. It's just a good practice to kind of keep this going. We'll just put show message failed to inject settings to the stub. Shouldn't have a problem, but just in case, we may want to, just in case, okay? Let's do begin, and then let's do end else. We'll just keep it at that. Control D that out. Okay, that looks a little bit more presentable. So at this point, what we're going to do is come down, and we need to free, after the finally, we need to free our setting stream. So setting stream.free, and then underneath this finally, we need to go ahead and end the process of updating the stub's resources. So we need to say end update resource on the stub handle, and it needs to be false. We're not expecting to discard it or anything, so don't worry about that. Just leave it at false. Now, at the very bottom here, I think, honestly though, guys, I think this should do. We'll just save it as is. This should do just fine without any problems. I don't think we have any more code to write. That's pretty much it. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on getting this done, and we're going to take you through step by step what happens on the stub point. So here, guys, let me make sure this is on debug, right click, build. So I am going to build this bad boy, and then I'm going to go into the folder where we've just created our executable file. So let's go Win32, debug, and here's the builder, okay? So I'm going to double click it to run it, okay? And it runs on screen just like this. You see that? Now I'm going to put whatever I wanted, ha 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 ha, whatever. Okay, so if I click to build this stub, it actually says that it failed to inject the settings into the stub. Let's find out if it actually did fail. So let's go to the, let's head on over to our resource hacker, and let's open it up and see if it actually did fail. So this is the directory where we're going to actually look at, and this is why you want to do debugging, because you want to see if your code actually worked or not. So you have to use Resource Hacker to look at your stub that you created and actually see if what you did was right or wrong. So here we have it, RC data, and it looks like I do not see any settings data at all. So it actually did not work. So we need to go back and look at our code. Okay, guys, so it turns out I actually had one of the ends in the wrong place, and that was causing our code to kind of mess up and whatnot. This is the corrected code. I'll be including it in the the description, the link in the description. But yeah, I had one of the ends in the wrong place, and I also had to add an else statement at the bottom to govern all of the above code. So if anything goes wrong, we just say failed to open the stub file for embedding. All right, and I should just say injecting or whatever you want to call it. That's fine. So I also put some comments in just to help out, so that way it's a little bit more explainable for you guys. So in any case, let's give this a run. Okay, so check this out, guys. If I run this program, we're going to be able to pull this up. Let me quickly, before we do anything else, let me go to the path where this exists. We're going to delete the stub we generated last time, which was a failure, and we're going to minimize that. Okay, so here's our program running in memory. I'm going to type in like 127.0.0.1 for an IP address and then 3434 for a port number, okay? We're going to go ahead and build the stub. So the two steps that this thing is going to do is reach up into its resources, pull out the stub and save it to the hard drive, then inject settings into that stub's executable resources. And it's injecting this and this and a pipe in between them, which you don't see because it's in code. But we're going to click build stub. And as you can see, it says settings were embedded successfully. So let's go and open up Resource Hacker. Actually, let me show you this. If you go to the debug folder, you can see the stub was created. Now, if I double click the stub to bring it up on screen, you're going to see that it says loading. Nothing happened. That's because we haven't programmed it yet. So let me show you guys what this looks like under Resource Hacker. So in Resource Hacker, if we go to File, Open, and then open the stub that we generated, okay? Remember, we injected a name of a resource called settings under RC data. So if we look under here, we should see something called settings. And there it is, settings. So if I click on this, you see how it injected my local IP and a pipe and 3434? You see that? So now the thing is, when the stub runs, we need to be able to tell the stub, hey, look into yourself, pull this string of data out and use it, right? So the builder's basically done. The builder does its job. When we click build, it reaches up into itself, finds the stub resource, extracts it to the hard drive, and then it injects data into the stub. So now when the stub executes, it doesn't do anything. See, it does nothing. So now we're done with the builder. The builder is complete. So we don't have any more work to do here. We're done. Now we got to work on the stub. So whenever I say work on the stub, I mean when the stub runs, we need it to look at that internal resource that exists within itself, and we need it to pull those settings and be able to use them. So the best way I know to do this, guys, and this is a very, very least amount of coding that I can possibly think of, all you have to do is just do it on the form create event procedure. Now, you can double click on the form to take you straight there, or you can make sure the form is selected, go to events, and go down to on create, which is right here, and double click in the blank area. That takes you right to the code. So on this point, when the stub runs, the first thing that's going to happen is the form gets created. So in this particular case. Now, if you're writing a console application or something a little more meaningful, by the way, especially for something like this, then you can go ahead and do it on the absolute creation of the executable. That's fine. But we're going to make some variables, and one of them is going to be called RS. This stands for T resource stream. So keep in mind, guys, everything that we're doing is based on executable resources. So we're using Windows API calls to create and edit resources inside of executable files. So the resource stream is absolutely necessary to be able to work with that API and be able to do things. So whenever the stub runs, we're trying to tell it, hey, as soon as you run, look up into yourself and see if you can find the settings resource. If you do find the settings resource, pull out the string that's saved in there, and that's the settings that were saved into you, and you need to use them. It's that simple. Now, the first setting is going to appear here, and the second setting is going to appear here. So this needs to say IP address and then the setting, and this needs to say port number and then the setting for it. And if you'll remember, everything's separated by a pipe. So here, let me show you. It was like this. Inside of the settings thing, I'm going to pop over here. It was 127.0.0.1, and then there was a pipe, and then there was a 3434 for the port number. So this is the IP address, and this is the port, and it's separated with a pipe. So we're just going to do a little string delimiting there. So down below, we're going to create three more variable types. So settings is an ANSI string to preserve the ANSI string for byte manipulation, which we're putting the text in as UTF-8, okay? So it just preserves the UTF-8 encoding for the strings, okay? And then we're going to have loaded settings. So loaded settings is going to be our final string that we end up with after preserving the UTF-8. And then we're going to have a string list, which is a t-string list, which we're going to work with later. Okay, really simple stuff, guys. Super, super simple. And I'll give you the code so you guys can go through this and change it up if you want to. First thing we have to do, though, is create a resource stream. So we're going to say t-resource-stream.create. This is going to be h instance, which is our current application. So this h instance thing means the stub exe, the whole fucking thing. Okay, we're saying dig into your own butt. Okay, reach up your butt and find the settings. So we're going to say settings, and this is in the resource type of RC data. So now then we come down and we're going to try the rest of this stuff. Okay, we're going to try to set the length of the resource stream size into our settings ANSI string. So we're going to say set length, okay, settings, resource stream dot size. That's it. Now we're going to come down and say our resource stream dot read buffer, and we're going to read the buffer of the settings all the way from character 1 to the end of the resource stream's size. So we're going to say settings 1 all the way to rs.size. So now we're going to convert the UTF-8 to a wide string, preserving the UTF encoding. So guys, the best way I can explain this, like if you put like, I don't know, if you put like for the two settings, the IP and the port, if you put like AAA pipe DDD, if you don't preserve the exact encoding of this that you put it in as, things can happen to where like the last character or the last two characters or maybe even the last three characters could end up looking really funky. Like there'll be D's and all, like in this particular case, but you might have squiggly lines underneath them and stuff, and it might look kind of fucking weird. Or they might even come out Japanese looking, like Chinese shit symbols, you know? Because we didn't preserve the data type that they are, which is UTF-8. That's why we're going through the trouble of doing all this stupid shit, okay? Just to preserve, like, the encoding of the text. So we're going to convert what we've now put into the resource stream, or rather into our settings. We're going to UTF-8 decode that so that we preserve the data type that it is. I hope I'm explaining myself correctly. So loaded settings is now going to be equivalent to UTF-8 decode, and we're going to decode our settings. So that's it. So now our loaded settings is a string. So we're saying decode whatever's in our settings here, which we've been using with the resource stream up until now, and convert it to just a basic string using UTF-8 decoding. So now the string that was in our resource settings has now become our loaded settings, and now we can use it. How cool is that, right? So now things get really, really simple. So we're going to create a string list, so we can parse our data, our saved data, in any way we wish to. Smiley faces. Okay, so at this point, we can simply do sl = t-string list.create. sl.delimiter is going to be equivalent to a what, gentlemen? It's a pipe, right? Because we put a pipe in between our IP and our port settings, right? And you guys can expand on this in any way, shape, or form that you want to. I mean, you guys could have it do a million different things if you wanted to. Like in your own projects and stuff, you could put settings in there to send over a screenshot to make sure that it installs to a certain location on the hard drive. You know, whatever. You can. Sky is literally the limit. So the delimiter is a pipe. And then we're going to do sl.strict delimiter is set to true, so there can be no spaces or anything like that. This means that you can't do like this. It's not, if you put some crazy crap in like a bunch of pipes, it's only going to count the first one. It's not going to, you know, it's not going to mess you up. Like it's literally strictly delimited to a single pipe. Okay? So then we're going to say sl.delimited text is going to be equivalent to, can you guess? It's the loaded settings, right? Because that's what we've already pulled out of our butt pretty much, right? And now that we've created our string list, we've set the delimiter, we've set the strict delimiter to true, and we've set the delimited text to be delimiting in the first fucking place, now we can say self.label1.caption is equivalent to, and we want to put this as the, remember, we're only saving two settings. We're saving the IP address and the port number, right? So IP address is going to be the first one, and we're going to do SL0, which is string list 0, because remember, the 1 in the 0 placeholder should be the IP, and the number 1 should be the port, right? Self.label2.caption is equal to port number plus SL1. And it's that simple. So now we can control D this on out, and at the end here, at the finally point, we want to make sure that we're clearing up our resource stream memory, and we also want to make sure that we free up our string list because we don't need it anymore. So we're just going to free both of them. So rs.free for the resource stream free, and then sl.free. And that's it. Code's done. So that is quite literally the stub. So again, I'm going to reiterate this, guys. When the builder gets used, we click the button, it reaches up itself, finds the stub executable, saves it to the disk, injects settings into the stub, and then you send that stub off to other people, or yourself, or whatever, depending on what kind of program it is. So then when the stub gets ran on other people's computers, or your computer, or wherever, it runs, and it reaches up itself and looks at its resources, finds the settings resource, pulls the strings out, properly parses them, and puts them on the label 1 and label 2. And it's that simple. That's how a builder works. So let's go ahead and try to do this now and see what happens. So I'm going to set this to release, right-click the stub, build the stub. So now the stub is built with all of our new fancy stuff. And then we're going to come back to the builder where we now have to rebuild this because it has to pull the newly created executable stub into itself so it's all updated. So let's go ahead and go look at debug. I'm going to delete everything in here. And then I'm going to right-click on the builder and click build. Now, as you're going to see, it's going to create the builder here. So now then, if I run the builder, then the builder's open. So I'm going to type in 127.0.0.1, and just to show you guys it is working, let's just do 9999, or how about 6565, okay? So if I click build, it says that the settings were embedded successfully, or injected, whatever, right? So I click OK, and I close this. Now this is the program you would send to your, wink, wink, your people, right? So if you double click this as one of those people, right? The following happens. See? It says that the IP address it found in its settings was localhost, and it says the port number was 6565. And that's it. That's how you build a builder and a stub. So now the stub has the ability to look in itself and pull out settings. Now you can do anything with these settings, guys. This is basic trash here, okay? Like you can look into these settings and pull out anything. So like you don't have to show it on screen and crap like that. This is just an example. You can reach up there and grab out settings to install to different directories, make it like do anything. I mean, use your imagination. I mean, we could literally insert like a billions of settings if you really wanted to. You see what I mean? So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope I've explained everything 110%. I feel like maybe I should go over it one more time. So I will. The builder is responsible for housing the stub executable inside of itself. So remember, you go to project on the builder, go to project, resources and images, and shove the stubs executable in there. And you give it a resource identifier name like stub or whatever you want. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be stub, okay, guys? So you've got the stub inside of the builder's executable. So when you click to build the stub, the builder's job is to reach up its butt, pull out the stub and throw it to the hard drive, and then inject settings into the stub. Then you take that stub exe that you just generated and you send it off to people or yourself or whatever, right? The point is, when the stub gets ran, it looks up itself into its settings resource that you created. And by the way, it doesn't have to be called settings. It could be called blah, 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 blah for all we fucking care, right? It could be called anything. and it finds those settings, and then you want to parse those settings and make your program do stuff with those settings. Get it? It's that simple, guys. It is literally that fucking simple. Okay, at this point, I think I've explained it enough. You're probably tired of me explaining it at this point. I really hope that you guys get the point. This stuff is simple as absolute hell. And there is just one more thing I'd like to cover. The settings. The actual settings themselves. Now, if you notice, in Resource Hacker, if we open the stub, which we just generated, you can see that reverse engineers can open it with this tool too. And they can go down to settings and see your clear text information. Not a good thing. So what you want to do on the builder side, before you inject those settings, you want to encrypt those settings. Get it? So before you just go injecting the clear text data of the IP address that you typed in here and the port number that you typed in here, you would want to implement some sort of encryption mechanism. That way it encrypts and scrambles this all to hell, both of these, and injects them into the stub. Now on the stub's endpoint, on its executable, when it reaches up into itself to find those settings, you need to find the settings that are encrypted, decrypt them in memory, then parse them, then use them. Get it? And that will at least alleviate a little bit of the pain for reverse engineers trying to, uncover your crap. You see what I mean? But piece of advice, everything is reverse engineerable, so good luck. But whatever. You can make it very difficult. You can give them one extra step. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and I will catch you in the next video. Until then, peace out.